Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Procreate podcast. And today I'm joined by our very special guest, our new podcast editor and member of the community, Darren. So, hello, Darren.
What's up?
How are you?
Good, trying to get my radio voice.
Yeah, trying to get your radio announcer voice on.
Something for the ladies. So drop it down a couple octaves.
So Darren's awesome. A bit of, background or context is I went on Freelancer for a podcast editor to help with the workload and ended up trialing a bunch. And Darren was like way ahead of the pack in terms of the quality and just ease of like hanging out. You were fun to hang out with, Darren. You were like, some people are difficult, some people can't speak English very well. You fit right in, and it was awesome. So I'm super happy that you're with us.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. I really look
I
forward
gotta say,
to
you also, I saw your stuff, like, and even like your videos, you just seem like you have a knack for, being on the mic and being in front of a camera. So
thank you. I really appreciate that. Okay. So, courtesy of Darren and his brilliance and enthusiasm for this project, actually, you've taken to it much more than I ever anticipated. We're gonna have a bit of a format now, which is something new. So I'm super keen for that. So, what are we gonna be discussing today, Darren?
The Kanye West video he just came out with.
So I, right before the podcast, listened to Closed on Sunday by Kanye West and watched the music video as per your request. And
yeah. What did you think?
So I made some dot points because it was particularly interesting, I guess. I don't normally listen to pop or Kanye or anything like that, but I was taken aback by it. I thought it had gorgeous like cinematography, but I did not understand what message was being portrayed or what the story was.
Yeah, it's like a creepy vibe he has.
It's a bit weird. Creepy, isn't it? I don't know what it is. It's like uncanny valley, because the shot that took me, I thought it was all beautiful. The intro with the gorgeous like fingerstyle guitar and these like angelic
the
vocals.
Music is actually like beautiful, but the whole
it.
time I'm waiting for it to drop. It's like a really long intro. The whole song is just like an intro.
See, I don't mind that. Is there normally a drop in this kind of music?
Well, you would think, like, generally, like, they're just never, I don't even think there were drums in the whole song. It just didn't seem like it. You know what I mean? There was no,
I think
I don't
there
know,
were.
It just never hit.
I recalled some kind of what I assumed was a drop, but it had the whole, like, it was pretty, like, minimal. It was just, like, some kind of pulse, and then, like, a synth, just like, den, or something like that.
It's a very minimalistic, like, type song. I mean, everyone looks like they're homeless, kind of, or something, for some reason.
And it was
they're just, like, on the side of a rocky mountain for, like, I don't know why.
Homeless or convicts? It's like they were slaves being taken out by the military.
Oh, is that? Maybe that's what that was.
Because remember, they were all leaving those
military
really interesting vehicles that they look straight out of Halo.
Mad Max.
And that drifting tank. So I noticed the drifting tank.
Oh yeah, doing donuts.
Yeah, exactly. And the really weird shaped box, like sugar cube trucks. They remind me of like popular cars in Japan. When I went to Japan for like a school trip, they drive like
they had like
interesting sugar cube little cars.
Yeah, except these had like the tank kind of the treads instead of tires.
They had like giant monster truck tires or treads or something, and they looked armored. Yeah, to me they looked like an upcoming vehicle in like the new Halo game or whatever. But yeah, what really got me were a few things. Firstly was that shot, I say after the intro, I guess, of Kanye, and is that his family, the Kardashian people or whatever, just sitting in a bunch of rocks, staring into middle distance, slightly off camera, and it's a long shot that slowly zooms out for like half a minute.
And they don't even blink.
They don't.
The whole time.
I didn't. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if I felt anything except confusion.
Yeah,
then
I
shortly
really was.
after,
the whole time, it's like Kanye West does not move. He doesn't blink. He's like posed on like the Lion King. He's at the top of a rock with all, you know what I mean? Just they zoom out for 1,000 feet and he just doesn't move. And then he's on the middle of he's on a rock in the middle of a group of choir singers that are all just dancing and singing, and it's like good music, and he's just standing there and he does not blink or move, and they pan out for like a whole minute. He doesn't even breathe. I'm pretty sure he's dead. I think it's a Weekend at Bernie's situation. Like he's dead, and they're just posing him in certain ways. Like if you watch, he's not alive in that video. It's so weird.
It's funny you mentioned that, because another big thing that, like, it's not even like a turn off, it's just jarring and confusing, was that big shot where he's in the middle of all these, you know, convicts or whatever singing in a choir, and it's quite choral, and he's just staring again, like into the middle distance.
Pose.
It's a pose. Yeah, it was a pose, and I found that really, like, I don't know, like narcissistic, or like I was like,
he is a definition of narcissistic.
Is
for
he?
Sure.
I don't really know. I only hear of like things that seem like jokes, where he's like, is he running for president? And apparently went with this before this album was released. He was on an interview show and said he's the greatest artist in the world or something like that.
Oh yeah, that sounds like he is the first person to stroke his own balls. That's for sure. And he, like, I remember reading in a Double XL or one of those magazines, those hip hop magazines, that they had an article where he was quoted to say that his apartment in New York was so nice he doesn't even listen to his own music in there because it's not good enough for his apartment. He only listens to like classical music or something, because even rap music and his own music is not classy enough for his own apartment. Like the section of the magazine was "nigga please." That was the the section where they just quote somebody saying something ridiculous, and that was Kanye's quote.
Did he name any names? I'd love to know what music he thinks is pure enough for this apartment, especially as a classical muso, because I'd just be interested. Yeah. I'd be like, what does a successful rap artist listen to in the vast genre that is classical?
He's beyond successful. He's felt like he's been transcendent and been godlike for at least 15 years.
Is that what this album is? Because so I work at an Italian restaurant, but in the day. So I work when it's a cafe, and then it transitions to a restaurant at night. And in the daytime, there's this predicament that it's maybe one of the things I like least about my job, because what happens is we obviously have speakers that play music, but it's basically the supervisor staff are the ones that pick the music, and they're really into pop music. So what happens is, in this cafe of all ages, they're playing pop music, which in the present day and age is quite inappropriate for families and kids. And because of today's streaming services, it's not even like the radio where it's censored. You know, on the Spotify versions of tracks are just raw. So you'll be there, and there are, you know, fucks and shits and niggers being said, and you're serving kids milkshakes and chips and stuff. And on Sundays, one of the chefs and one of the front of house staff are both on together with me, and they love Kanye West and rap. So what they do is, because the boss is away and doesn't come in on Sundays, they play Kanye's new album, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is this track a part of it? This Christian sort of album?
Yeah, he's gone hard into the Jesus stuff for sure.
So he's suddenly become religious. Yeah, so it sounds like a choir album, but then he's rapping about his transcendence and, you know, how everyone should worship God and stuff like this.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he is he has his own Sunday like church service, like in his own place where he's like the priest of
the minister or something.
And so it's almost cult-like. I mean, you know, he might buy a like small country somewhere and take all of his people there, and they'll all drink, you know, the Kool-Aid. It'll be a big news story.
I feel like when you have that much money and that many, because think of how many yes men are around him. You know, that whole predicament where it's like, I feel like at that point you live in your own existence, and it's like, good on him. As long as you don't kill anyone, just go live your own existence.
True. I mean, yeah, but yeah, that's true. As long as he's not like a creep or
Or going to become
a
like
violent
a
person.
Hitler figure or something. But
You're
yeah,
right, right.
but yeah,
That's a
that was a
good point.
really peculiar video. But the music itself, I really appreciate it. But here's the thing: do you know? Does Kanye produce? Like, is he the musician behind the track, or does he just do the rapping? Like, how much involvement does he have in the
That's
tracks?
from what I knew of him. He was like where he came up off of his beats, and then he also was a rapper. So he kind of he came up off his beats, but then like started rapping and was successful doing that. And he wasn't terrible at it until he just
Of
forgot
course,
that
at this level, there's tons of help. Like, I imagine you get checked constantly with like, I imagine like a billion different producers come and look at your track and tweak it.
Yeah,
Right? I don't
right,
know.
right. I'm pretty sure what he does is, and I've heard that he'll take his his idea or his very raw skeleton song, that's just like got the bare bones of it or whatever. He'll take it to a like a one of the Rick Rubin or whoever, some mega producer or whatever that he can afford, and they'll flush it out for him and finish it off. So
Sure,
kind of a combo deal. But I mean, it's his ideas, but there's always
I don't know how I feel.
Somebody putting it together.
Yeah, it is a machine, isn't it? It's like the brand, the person is like, at least not I don't have anything against it. I just don't like the fact that it's like the person's name is also their brand. Therefore, it's like this song. I don't like it's this song Closed on Sunday by Kanye West, as opposed to what it really is, which is Closed on Sunday, and then it should have a credits as long as the Avengers, because so many people would have worked on it,
To be fair, like if you open up any song you've ever heard that you like, there's always
it's the same deal.
Several other people that are getting paid off of that song because they help make it
absolutely
put it together.
I don't know. I'm always like, I just feel edgy about that, but probably because I'm like trying to I want to be a composer, so it's like I run the risk of I'm probably going to be more likely to be the ghost producer that doesn't have my name on something, as opposed to become the person with my name on it.
Ghost producer. I mean, because if you I mean, even if you're producing a song, you're technically writing the song. So if you have writing credits, the writers are the ones who get all the money, the mailbox money when they
and
retire
the royalties and
Those
stuff.
songs are getting played. The royalties are all going to the writers.
Fair enough. I suppose I'm just having a small gripe over status. I don't know.
Well, one thing I will say that I liked about the video overall is that like he didn't once talk about something that he just bought. You know what I mean? Like,
does he do that
look
often?
What I got. Look what I have. No, but like most rap, that's the number one thing that it is.
Was it like gold chains and this Lamborghini?
They just bring their shopping list into the studio and start reading it off, and that's
I hear a lot of the music that plays in the cafe.
I don't care what kind of car you have. I don't care what kind of clothes you wear. Like, why would I give a fuck about that? Like, sweet, that's good for you. What else is going on? Like, why would I invest time in something like that?
That's a fair point. A lot of the music I do hear playing through the cafe does mention, like, obviously women, hoes, and prostitutes and such. So,
right. It's like,
as part
what
of that
happened to
shopping
being an
list.
artist and writing a song? Like, I don't want to hear about your Friday night. I'd rather hear about something that, you spend time on.
Yeah, exactly. I suppose it's what's relatable or what people, it sells that Western fantasy of the
That's because people are mostly stupid, to be honest. Like, that's 7 out of 10 people are just going to eat that shit up. But, I mean, if you can't argue, as long as the song is dope, as long as it's catchy and it's good music, then you can't deny it. Don't matter what you sing about. But for the most 90% of the music, it's like it's all about just playing to dumb people that'll fucking just get your name out there to as many people as you want. Most people aren't really music fans. They just want to hear what they've heard before that they've heard that won't make them look stupid for listening to.
I respect your opinion a lot, and I think you've just closed on a really peculiar point. I won't linger on it, but when I was at uni, we had a course, I can't remember what it was, goes to show how effective I was at studying. Not really, but brought up in one of the lectures by this teacher I absolutely admire, this wonderful saxophonist. Diana told me she mentioned as part of the course this concept backed up by some kind of science, or at least prevailing theory, that the music that we like sits at the equilibrium or the touching point of what you're familiar with and what is just outside your comfort zone. So if it's too far outside your comfort zone, you won't like it. If it's too unfamiliar, but you need something, and most of it, arguably most of it, needs to be familiar. And she used that to explain this predicament in university, where all the classical musicians and a lot of jazz musicians too, as they become more educated, they fall more out of touch with popular music and begin to loathe it or hate it. Kind of like myself, I really struggle to listen to pop music, and I just say I don't like it because maybe perhaps that, or at least by her concept, it's like, well, because we're out there trying to study and level up as musicians, and especially with classical and jazz, it's all about more the harmonic stuff, not so much production. It's more what you can do with harmony. Our harmonic vocabulary increases, and then we're familiar with everything that happens in pop music, and none of it is challenging enough harmonically that we find it boring, or that we find it boring or stale. Or in my case, I just find it super repetitive and don't listen to it, because I'm all about harmony. But if you study something like production or something, like, perhaps you might be able to chime in on this, but pop music might really appeal to you still, because even though it's harmonically simple and it's, very simple, say lyrically, it might be cutting edge in terms of production.
Or it's just, it's just gotta be, it's just gotta feel good when it plays. Nothing abrasive, basically. And it really is. And if it feels good and it's simple enough, and that's how it becomes familiar, if it's simple, because it doesn't take many repetitions before you can repeat it back. You know what I mean? And you get the idea of it, and you don't have to learn it. You know what I mean? It just kind of flows naturally. And that appeals to the lowest common denominator. You know what I mean? Simplest form of something that feels good.
And that's probably something I'll struggle with my whole life, because my favorite music is quite contrary to that.
And see, that's like with jazz music, that I've never been able to. Well, I understand why jazz music doesn't do much more than play in a background. You know what I mean? Like, in an elevator.
It's a bit of a like a novelty, or like a It's
too freeform. There's no structure to it. There's nothing to grab and hold on to and remember. Like a jazz song.
Well, there is. It's just the vocabulary is difficult. I would say perhaps an astute sort of observational way of putting it is that perhaps jazz vocabulary and harmonic language and structure is akin to speaking with very complicated words, kind of like I'm now, it's sounding pretentious. So it's like people would rather say in Australia, "G'day, how are you?" as opposed to someone walking up with a cane and a top hat going, "How art thou today? This day is promiscuous," or right? And they get frustrated because it's too complicated, or like reading a difficult novel.
Yeah, if you think about like mainstream media today, or just anything like Western world of pure American, it's like, instead of "Hey, good morning, good evening, how are you?" It's like, "Hey," you know what I mean? Like, we've dumbed everything down to like, "Hey, so yo."
I think I would struggle with this a lot. It's funny because, to put a cap on that, basically in the last month I achieved a girlfriend. I don't know how you word that. I have a girlfriend now, and she's interested in music, right? But she's not she hasn't studied it like I have. So she watches my videos, and she helps me out with the new ones I make. She's part of the process, and she's got this perspective that I find not difficult, but it's like kind of countering, which is very helpful, which is that I'll make a video, or I'll include something in the video that she goes, and my sisters do this too, my little sisters, and they go, we like what you're doing. We like the music, and we think it sounds good, but we don't understand what you're saying, or we don't understand what you're showing us. And she's trying to I'm really excited because
trying to
with
dumb it
her,
down. Like
she'll be able to help me
simplify.
do that, because to me it's these things are simple, they're kind of part of my everyday language. I operate at that level, but
Yeah.
you know, the videos I make, it's like they're out of reach for a lot of people, and she's, you know, having those other references is going to help me.
Right.
Not dumb it
Like, you
down,
don't
because
want to
that's a
be.
poor way to put it, but make it
Well,
more
yeah. I mean,
relatable,
and
because
it
people
has a
just
bad
get bored.
connotation, and I mean, but it's only like in a bad sounding thing if you're sensitive. You know what I mean? By dumb it down, I'm saying like simplify it, because not everyone speaks Chinese. You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
like,
And it's very much like that. But yeah, it's funny how we ended up here from Kanye's thing, but I think that will always happen whenever I endeavor into pop music, I always end up somewhere in this realm, trying to figure out why I don't like it, but most people do. Yet I'm someone who's aspiring to be a musician, and most people aren't. I find that interesting.
you got to remember, 95% of the people that listen to music are not learning music. They're not studied in music. They just listen to it in the background, whether while they're driving to work or while they're playing a video game or whatever. You know what I mean?
That's an
They don't
excellent
get
point.
too deep into it beyond that.
Thanks for making that point, because I think it's something I should remind myself of often.
Right.
So, oh, well, that's awesome. Well, it's probably perfect time to move on to just a bit of back and forth, throwing some questions. In case anyone, well, no one will know, but this is actually the first time Darren and I have met no, it's not in person. I don't know what you call it.
Unquote met, yeah.
In real time. So we're going to just talk a bit, sort of learn a bit about each other, ask questions that interest us, and just engage in discussions. So I'll throw the first question, since the mic is hot on my side. And it's that, well, what is your primary sort of occupation? Is it freelancing at present?
Like what? How do I pay the bills? Basically?
Yeah. What? Well, no. Let me rephrase that.
Or you mean creatively?
What projects are you most excited about that you work on regularly? So what keeps you busy that you're excited about? You know.
Okay.
What are your creative projects that you do?
Creative projects. Well, it would technically now be this, since I've fallen into the world of the Discord community around this podcast. But besides that, I'm doing like sound design, and I just did a trailer for independent film where they actually film the trailer first, and then they use that as like a springboard.
Like a pilot?
Yeah, basically, yeah. And so like they just sent me the raw files, you know, some very unevenly and poorly recorded production audio of like a couple scenes, and then I had to clean them up and bring them up, and then I got to add all the sound effects of a trailer, the whooshes and the bass hits and the boom, you know, at a certain point, and like all the different kind of like and the heartbeat, you know, because it's kind of a horror thriller type. So I put in the heartbeat, you know, that gets louder and louder as the tension builds in the
all that stuff that you don't think about that someone actually put
there.
Yeah.
It's surprising, like when you learn post-production sound design, how much like
it's
that
like
it brings. I mean, that ties
naturally.
the video together. Like,
yeah, wow.
And how much work we do behind the scenes that you would never even consider. You know, you just watch something and you just assume that's how it is, how it sounds, or whatever. But hey, it's crazy to think of how. I mean, I was when I was interning for Undertone Music, we were working on this documentary. It was really good. It's called The Starfish Throwers. It's, you know, streaming on like whatever streaming sites. It's about well, it don't matter what it's about, but it's a documentary, right? So it's all just, you know, raw footage. But even when they're like, you know, he's greeting the homeless guys and giving them hugs and stuff in the winter, they're wearing jackets. So we're recording Foley of the handshake, and we're matching up the jackets that they're wearing, and we're rubbing our wrists together as they hug, and, you know, making all those sounds and stuff that just to fatten it up and sweeten the sound. And you would never know that stuff goes into making something like a documentary. It's like natural, reality TV. You see what you hear, but even though that you're getting the, you know, that he's making sandwiches. We're in the studio, you know, on the big screen watching the video. We're making the sandwiches with the plastic bags right in front of the mic. You know what I mean? To recreate all those sounds exactly how they were.
Ah, that's so bloody interesting. And
Yeah,
it's like a
it's cool.
no-brainer. It makes sense. It's just you never even put a cent of thought to it.
Right. That's why documentaries sound really good. Whereas
Yeah.
home video, if you see someone's home video, the sound is like terrible, and it's like it's all shaky, and there's like all kinds of other
I
um
always
like problems with it.
I really aspire to say, I don't know, in X amount of years, because I'm aware all the YouTube channels that I look up to, they've basically been around for 10 years. So I'm very aware that it might take 10 years to get sort of, where I'd like to be. So it's like, but I do wonder what it would be like to have a channel, because I don't think many people do it, where you really, say when you make a video, you do a pass, a final pass for sound design, adding all that Foley and adding sound
Yeah.
effects. And I feel like it would make a huge difference, even though people wouldn't necessarily notice it. They'd notice it if you did it and then went back to normal. And it was
Yeah, that's
amazing.
what separates the amateur from the professional sounding stuff. Is a really good production value, which includes really dedicated sound post production, sound effects, sound design, everything like that. In the ADR is crucial. It's basically ADR. I forget what the letters stand
yeah, I
for.
was just about to ask. I'll Google it whilst you explain what you're about to explain.
Something dialogue recording. I forget what the A stands for, but basically, if think about like any action movie or anything where you're recording dialogue, but there's a wind happening at wherever. They never use the production audio. The actors come in. 70% of what you see in video is ADR, where the actors come in after everything's edited, and then they record the dialogue to the just how like Foley is done. We're recording
they
the
dub
sleeves
themselves, so
and stuff.
it's clear.
I've
started to notice that in movies.
And then it's like sometimes it's obvious. Like you'll see all of a sudden they'll have a weird cut where you just see the back of the actor's head and they kind of
their voice
twist
is
some
perfectly
line in
clear.
there that and it like doesn't really match as well as the other, which is funny that they still do that in professional stuff. But I mean most of everything, because like if you're outside, you're doing the ADR, you got to EQ the echoes and stuff to make it seem like it's in that environment. And I mean, there's so much that goes into it. Like even room tone is like one of the most important things of sound design, which is like the scene happens in this room, so you just record that room sound with nothing else happening, like the vent or a fan or the AC unit or something is lightly humming, and that like you need that in like adjust that humming of the AC to put into the scene when you're doing the sound design. So there's all kinds of room. It's the most boring part of doing sound design is when you're trying to, where I'm just listening to a minute and a half of a, you know what I mean, of the AC unit or something. I'm like, yeah, that sounds right. Maybe I'll mix it with this other one and turn them up a little bit, and I'm just listening to room tone for hours.
Man, that sounds shocking. That's what because the only thing I can relate to that is recently. It's only this year that I've started getting into composing and electronic music production and stuff. Because before that, I was basically just trying to become a classical pianist. So everything was just acoustic, just practicing piano. So like now I'm new to all this production, and there's this whole concept of mixing and mastering, and I've like done a course, and it's like I find it so bloody boring, but it's perhaps it's so crucial. I am absolutely subject, and it's like if there's one thing I wish I could just like snap my fingers and change my how I think about it, would be that, because it's like I think every track I've made, and probably every track I will make for a very long time, will be poorly, like still have a lot left in mixing mastering, just because I do it for a couple hours and I get bored, and then I just hit render because I'm like, I'm over it. I just want to get this done and move on. And it's like,
that's why
to have that patience.
That actually master shit for a living, they get paid a lot of money per song, because it's all about your reference speakers. Like you have you got to have a set of crummy speakers and a set of good speakers, and you got to A/B that so you can see that it still sounds good on the crummy speakers and as good as it does on the big speakers. And you got to have good basically you have to have a good sound reference for all of that stuff, and it's hard to separate yourself from something you created. You know what I mean? Because you're making it like it's hard. It's hard to really step back and take a look at your own piece and really understand where the levels should be. That's why it's always good to work and with people on that.
I keep hearing that it's always a great idea to not outsource, but pretty much outsource the mastering to someone who is not you, if it's possible.
Right. A selfish artist is going to be the worst kind of artist. You know what I mean? Because you don't. And if you think about it, you're not making music for yourself. If you were, that's just a hobby. No. You're making.
And you
it for
become
other
too
people.
Forgiving. Like that's exactly the issue with me. Is I go, it's fine, it's good enough.
Or too stubborn. I think is what it is. It's like, oh yeah, I'm like it sounds good. I like it, so you must like it too, right?
Yeah. So because I'd be like, I just get bored and tap out because of the boredom and the lack of interest. Because for me, the music making is what I do with the harmony and the instrumentation and stuff. And once I'm past that, it's like, wait, I've still got like 8 hours of work left on this track. Why would I do that? I'm just going to hit render now or whatever, export it now, even though it's
that's my question to you then is do you work on one song at a time or how's your process? You one song, then you move to the next one, then to the next one, or do you work on several at a time and switch it up? Or
pretty much always I've been working on several at a time, except for a few cases. But yeah, pretty much I tend to prefer bouncing around things because it helps me with that boredom and fatigue I was mentioning. If I work 30-40 minutes, I tend to hit I hit a point where I hit that wall where I'm in the project file, but I'm stuck in a loop. So if it's a door, I'll hit this point where I'll start listening to it over and over again and not making anything new. And I'll think I just need to listen to it more. So I find switching to something else helps, but that's like, I mean, every project's been different so far because I'm so early. I'm such a fledgling into this whole world and this career that it's like I don't have a set workflow yet. It's just I tend to work on multiple things purely because there's multiple projects in the work at any given time, and it's all sort of self-imposed deadlines. Like, I mean, my deadlines are simply, a video every Friday, and then whatever else is going on. And then, of course, the challenge piece once a month, and then whatever sort of work I can get via like actual sort of freelancing. I try and, send emails to people and be like, hey, can I compose music for you? And I've only gotten one of those so far. And, each one is like different. What, though? So I basically go through YouTube channels that I think might appreciate having someone compose something for them. So I have this giant mega list and I keep adding to it, and I send them an email, basically a big pitch being like, hey, well, it's not big, but it's like, 2 paragraphs, and it's just like, hey, would you be interested in having a composer work for free? Because exactly. I don't have a portfolio. So the best thing I think I can do is just to do it for free and just spread word of mouth, and with each one get a portfolio behind me and build that. I talk with people, and I really would love to compose for a channel that does animation, sort of like in that vein of like Odd Ones Out. I think that's something that would be really cool, is doing that kind of.
What about like scoring for film or something like that, or composing for
Well, here's my thought, and this is where I'm sort of being my own guinea pig. Is I think, based on how much I watch YouTube and how much my little sisters watch YouTube and just everyone watches YouTube and these new sort of platforms, I think there's potential that in a couple years there might be a little bit of an industry, at least enough for a few people to, carve out a living, or at least a side hustle, or just, a bit of an income in being composers specifically for YouTube and internet media. So that's what I'm sort of gunning for. Even though it's the same skills as film and movies, I'm very curious to see if I can, maybe score a gig for one or multiple YouTubers long term or whatever. And I'm just curious to see that. So that's what I'm sort of trying with myself before, you know, I decide to, because it would be not easy, but it would be it would be the standard thing to do, to be like, I like writing music, I like music, I'm going to go study composition and I'm going to try and become a film composer, because that's sort of what it's a bit, not well, maybe it is saturated, I wouldn't know, but that's what most people do. So I'm sort of
trying I think a good way to like build a portfolio would be to look for student films and independent films where they have micro budgets or zero budgets, and you know, that are always looking for somebody willing to, who actually can play an instrument, that can do an original score for their 7 minutes. Like, I'm in Minnesota in America, and even here there's several large independent underground film festivals a year where all the student filmmakers and you know, freelance filmmakers will make 5 to 7 to 10 minute films, and they always need people. Like, that's where I do a lot of sound design and stuff, and that's where they're looking for someone who can score for the film, because they're not going to be able to afford to license real
music and pay royalties
song and stuff like that. So that's where that could be, and generally it's a pretty small barrier to entry, because they're just looking for somebody who can do something with a real instrument and will do it for free or next to free or whatever.
Thanks for bringing that up. I'll keep my eye out for that. That does sound like a win-win. Like very much like a win-win. You
can't afford not to, especially if you're trying to build a portfolio. That's where all this, you got to look for the student related stuff, like even, you know, music or whatever. If you're trying to collaborate, go for some students, because obviously they're not going to be able to afford anybody that does it professionally. So everyone's trying to find someone to help out.
Yeah, so I did a gig for Keep Productive YouTube channel, and the advantage of doing the YouTube channels that I'm also sort of like, which is a big part of sort of why I'm gunning for them as well, is because I'd like to grow my own channel, is I can get payment in the form of shout outs, and that's what I did. It's like, you know, that person's like, well, you know, I'll shout you out in my video and, you know, link your channel.
Oh, you mean, yeah, okay, so you get
so
like
that was
free publicity.
That's a big deal. Yeah, to me, I think that's
right.
Let's say a strategy that I'm like,
that's a good idea.
So it was like, I didn't get paid for this gig, but Francesco, basically the guy I did the work for, he's lovely. Yeah. And basically I got because it's also networking, as it's like, I now have a network with him and we have a great relationship, and it's like, you know, we're not using each other. It's just like, I now know him and he knows people, and I'm growing my circle of influence. And I kind of want to become known in this ecosphere of YouTube, because I don't think there's other people like me in it. So there's less competition and there's more chance to kind of like share my talents with it. Because here's the thing that I sort of think of is, at uni studying music, everyone sort of has a similar set of skill sets, just kind of unique in their own way. And I'm kind of like, well, I'd like to get out of that bubble and go to a bubble where no one's got musical skill sets, and then be the guy that does and share my talents with them. Because I find that to be a more win-win, because it's like, this being a perfect example is Francesco's like a business guy. He's got a marketing degree. But
yeah. So
it's like, for me to offer my skills, they're much more valuable to him, and his return of like experience.
He does nothing with music or whatever. Right?
Exactly. Right. So it's much more impressive to him, and it means a lot more to him. So I just, I'm trying to go that route, and I want to do more of that. So like, which is why I'd love to work with animators, is because they'd probably really appreciate that as well. So yeah, and then also the stuff I get in return in terms of the relationship is just much more, you know, the projects you can work on are much more versatile when you've got that diverse skill set, as opposed to there's only so much you can do when everyone's a musician. And that's what I found at uni, is it's like, oh, what do we do together that's going to be amazing? It's like, well, obviously it's going to be some kind of music. Whereas with these other people, it's like the doors of the medium are much more open.
So it could be music, or it could be editing video
projects and all that stuff.
Right.
You know, so it's
add more tools to your Batman utility belt.
You know. Batman utility, probably more Robin, to be honest. I don't think I'm really a front man. I think I'm more. Hoping.
Does Robin have a utility belt? I don't know if he does. I think
maybe it's a utility. Like,
He's
ankle
just got those underpants on the
bracelet.
outside of his regular pants or whatever. And you don't have no belt. You don't need a belt when you got that outfit.
Man, that's so true. My hope is just that maybe one day I land a gig just as a composer for, say, a big channel and can be someone's seconder, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Kind of like you with the sound design is like, that would be awesome. And then replace my cafe work with that instead. That'd be lit. Because the YouTube thing's just so much fun, but I don't think that'll ever monetize or anything, and I don't sort of plan to, because it's just such a nice thing to like bring together like-minded people. Like everyone's super fun and the podcast's fun, and it's like,
well, maybe that wouldn't monetize, but eventually, if you have enough of eventually you find something that is popular enough amongst people who are just fringe YouTube viewers, that's how you really get monetized. It just soon you just got to trend in one direction.
And maybe that will happen, maybe it won't, but yeah.
But the more directions you're in, the more likely you are to trend in one of them, right?
You reckon? Diversification? Fair enough. Anyways, let's move on to checking out some music, because it's getting...
Yeah, I think we're running a little long on this.
Yeah, it's getting that time, so let's listen to some music. Do you want to go first?
Sure.
Yeah, guess first.
Yeah,
guess
yeah.
first. You are my guest.
So I'll just explain this. The Animals, The House of the Rising Sun from, I think, the late 60s, early 70s, was a huge hit in America and probably worldwide. I don't know. But it's like a classic rock staple because it's just an amazing song. So I did a remake of it using Massive, which is like my favorite synthesizer progressions and all that. I just reanimated them, basically. That would be all you need to know about it. This would be my version of The House of the Rising Sun.
I'm super keen. Is there any specific feedback you're looking to glean?
No,
or just anything?
Check it out.
Okay. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna breeze through all the points I made for the sake of time, but there's a lot. I love how punchy the drums are, Darren. I really do.
Thank you.
How they're bit crushed. I love them. I do wish that there's occasionally you use like a tom. I think it's panned to the right, and I can barely hear it in my headphones. So I'd love those like little fills with toms or something, if that is what I'm hearing, or maybe I'm just making it up. I'd love them to be a little more audible in the mix. Perhaps they're being maybe one of the synths is in the same frequency range and it's sort of stealing its limelight or something. But it's like I can hear it just enough to know it's there, but I can't like actually hear it, if you know what I mean. Yeah, it's like because I'm looking for it. But yeah, I love the drums. I really do. I couldn't make drums like that, but I think it's awesome. I love your sci-fi lead. Did you make that from scratch, or was that from a preset? That like the first one that kind of sounds like a UFO. It's like that. That really.
They're all based off presets, but
of course you tweak them.
I always completely tweak them. Yeah, but
I like that pick. It's interesting, but it still like works within the piece, you know. But it is like out there enough to be like whoa. And the other synth I like obviously they're all server purpose, but the other one that really got me was like, I can only describe it as, I think it's the following one. It's like a saw/square, and it's like kind of sounds like a beehive. It's like, I love that.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I wonder what it would sound like if you widened that, like stereo widened it, made it feel bigger, or like maybe added more voices though. Because I was like curious
like,
if it might
to the individual synth or to the overall?
To that specific beehive. To that beehive. Okay. I was like curious as to what it might sound like if it felt like it was like, you know,
put
massive,
more voices in it or whatever.
Yeah, maybe more voices. Like I was curious what it might sound like if it were like an orchestra of beehives, you know, like full on surrounding. Might sound crap.
You're right.
But my brain went there. And like maybe if it had a bit of motion to it, it was a pretty static synth. So I don't know if you could like maybe filter it, what that would sound like as well in conjunction. You know, just have like a filter with an LFO or something, just, you know, adding some kind of movement.
Like panning or
just anything, grabbing some feature of the sound. Probably not panning, or maybe you could have like two of the same thing, but then like panning, but then in opposite phase.
Kinda.
And then like, so you'd feel like a swelling in the left ear and then the right ear. I don't know. I just felt like I was curious if it could like, if it had some kind of movement within the sound, if that would make it even more awesome. I don't know.
I got you. That makes sense. That's something I generally don't consider really. Like I'm a very straight line kind of when I make it, so I don't really all the motion, kind of the afterthoughts of when you've already, you know, because once I get the sound I like, then I generally move on. Stick with it. Yeah, I never really try to make it more three-dimensional.
Well, it works, and it might sound, these suggestions might sound crap. I'm just sort of like curious, you know. It's like who knows?
They're very intriguing. Like it's a totally different way of looking at it than I generally would. So that's why these things are helpful.
I felt, or I think, again, another curiosity is pretty much throughout the entire track, but especially the first half. To me, it's like I'd love to hear what it would sound like a version with just constant, a nice, warm, almost orchestral string sounding or a wind sounding, like just some kind of pad underlaying the entire time to like fill out the space and, you know, for the piece to sit on top of.
Okay.
I just wonder what that would sound like because at the moment I'm like, it's kind of like you can hear all the individual layers and enough that you could like count them on like one or two hands. And I'm like, you know, I wonder if having it supported by like a thick pad might make it sound, I don't know. I'm just curious how that would sound. More supported, I guess.
You know, like a ship or like basically something for everything to ride along.
Make it feel a bit less like a skeleton at times, or like, you know, you can count all the, I know it's like you can see the X-ray of the piece, you know, like your brain can go, there's two there's the beehive, there's
Right,
there's that,
you're
and there's the
dissecting
drums.
it, right?
Whereas I
Right,
feel like
right, right.
I wonder if a pad might obscure that so that your brain doesn't do that and it just goes, whoa, there's a lot of sound and it all sounds awesome. But maybe it won't.
Right, right.
I,
So yeah, a bedrock for
yeah,
for
something like
everything. A
that. Again,
foundation.
who knows? It might not. It might bomb. But I'm curious. I love your side chaining. I think I noticed it mostly in the second half. But I was like, oh, this is actually really, really. I don't know. It was just I noticed it, but like in a good way. I was like, oh, there's side chaining going on. And I think maybe it was just with one of the synths or something. But it was like, I don't know. I like it. It's like I notice it, and I'm like, oh. He's doing side chaining. Cool. I always find it cool because I only recently learned how to do side chaining and I still stuff it up a lot. So I really respect people who do it. Like, and it works. What else do I have? I really liked how there was like the synths you introduced would disappear for a while whilst you introduce other ones. But eventually they did all there were a moment or two where they did join together and all sort of unite a little bit.
Yep.
I just enjoy stuff like that because it's like classically trained. It's like, kind of what you aspire to do is develop all these different motifs or ideas and then go off and develop them, but then have lots of like the climaxes are always where they all interact with each other in one beautiful moment and then disappear.
Where everything comes together.
So personally, because of my bias, I really appreciate little moments like that. I like how you develop the percussion a lot just because it's like I am not a percussionist primarily. I tend to just put out a little drum beat when I'm making electronic stuff and then just loop it forever. I don't sort of pay attention to how does it progress over the piece because my brain sort of is always like putting harmony first. Yeah, and then I sort of go through and I'll publish the track and I'll be like, or I'll make a video about it and it's out on the internet and I listen to it. I'm like, oh, it's legit the same beat the entire way through. Like there's no variation.
Yeah, I mean, especially with this one and generally how it works, but like specifically with this one it was all melodies, whatever, to the kind of the same beat repeated. But then after the structure of all the music was, pretty much set in stone, then I went back and I just focused on specifically the drums and cutting them out and designing those to go through and have their own patterns and breaks and builds and all that stuff like after the fact. And then like the hi-hats were the last pass because I put those, then I went and just spent several passes just kind of with my eraser icon because I'll lay it out throughout the whole song, but then I'll run through with the eraser and I'll take it away here and take it away there, have to extend this here and take it away there, kind of really customize them specifically. So I'll do passes where I'm just focused on the hi-hats or just the clap or the toms or whatever, where I'm dedicated on just those for this pass, customize them along with the rest of the song. And that's something that I really didn't do a lot of to begin with. And sometimes it comes and goes where like I'll know the song generally I end up not being that fond of later will be one that I didn't come back to fine tune that much. You know what I mean? Like
and add that polish,
with the drums and all. Because it's like I just if I'm not drawn back to it, and that means I'm not really listening to it that much after I make it. Because if I'm listening to it more because I like it, I'll be like, oh, I should do this, I should do that. I gotta go back and change this and that.
Like an endless, like a lot of people, how they'll like continually work on their house and it's never done. They're always building a new bedroom or a new veranda.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And thanks for sharing your process on the percussion because, like I said, that's sort of a thing that is definitely a crutch or a weakness. And sort of, I think I'm going to follow your example and trial it out in my own pieces to do that pass just after the fact for percussion. So still make the piece on one beat because that lets the ideas flow. Like for me, it's like I just need a rhythm that's enough
like a
to
metronome. Basically,
I just need a metronome that doesn't sound like a metronome and has a bit of a character, hence a groove or a shuffle or something. But you know, then at the end to come back and go, okay, let's add some fills. Let's give the drummer. Let's treat it as if the drummer was a real person and try and stop them from falling asleep.
One thing I'll do sometimes is I will make a beat where it's specific only drums. Like the song is just drums basically, and then once I do that, so that means they're going to be strong and they're going to be interesting and captivating, and then I'll put music on top of it after that.
Oh.
Like, so, you know what I mean? That's something you might want to try, is just to get your drum game up. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just
yeah, that's
focus on the
awesome.
drums first, and then go off the music. Because all you need is the metronome to make the music. But if you had the drums as the metronome that were already quality and already really edited and
It's
customized,
inspiring then, yeah.
as long as you got that snare going at the beat per minute that you want, it's the same as the metronome. Even if the drums are fancy, you might even write something a little more in line with the drums and kind of have it come together that way. Don't be scared to try new things. You know?
I don't think it's fear of trying new things for me. It's just like being comfortable and being
Familiar,
like,
yeah,
familiarity, being like, these are the ropes. This is how I do it. And then I publish a track and then afterwards go, oh, I meant to try that new thing. Oh, well, I'll do it next time, you know?
Right.
That kind of thing.
Set an alarm
Yeah, set
on
an
your
alarm.
phone.
Man, I got it. The other points before I wrap up on that is, I liked how you developed the percussion. I liked you had like, it was quite sparse, but like I think there was one moment towards the second half where you introduced another new lead, maybe the last synth you introduced, and it's like, it's got this really nice reverb tail to it, or like a bit of a delay effect. I just really appreciated that, because it was contrasting. Everything before it didn't really have a reverb. It was all very, I don't know what you call it, but very dry.
Two-dimensional.
Yeah. So when you introduce that third dimension, that slight reverb tail, I really like it. And as a pianist who's a bit of a sustain pedal whore, if you know what that means, I really
do not.
So if you've ever played a piano, you have that right pedal that makes it basically, technically, if you have a piano, the hammers hit the strings when you hit the key, and it'll ring as long as you're pressing it down. But when you lift up, then what happens is a piece of felt drops on the key to mute it, so that the second you lift your finger, the key stops ringing. Otherwise, it will ring forever. A sustain pedal will move the felt so that when you lift the key, the felt won't mute the string and it'll keep ringing out for as long as you're hitting the pedal. So it allows you to play piano in a legato way, which is like a smooth way where it's ringing out, basically. Like all the notes are sustained, and it's arguably how it's played most of the time. And you get gorgeous things like Clair de Lune and pieces that could not really be played without it, and in fact use it as a key thing. And it's very common for people when they play the piano or learn it, and especially at uni, to be whores with the sustain pedal, because it's a bit of a trick to make things sound good and hide mistakes and flaws, because it muddies up the sound. It's essentially like, it's kind of similar, but not really, to adding reverb to something. And it's like, if you add reverb, it instantly makes it sound good, but it can also hide what needs work and kind of be used like smudging in art. You know, it's like if you smudge it, then it's blended and you can't identify.
The fade will look better, right?
Exactly. So to be a pedal whore is to sort of just jam on that right pedal, that sustained pedal, and play, and not really, pay attention to the nuance of, and abuse that power. Better. So as a sustained pedal whore, it's like, I really do appreciate when reverb is used, and it's used tastefully, not just like, because obviously I do this in production as well, because it's a similar thing. It's like, my favorite part in production arguably is putting reverb, like a reverb effect on something, like my East-West plugin that has all the different room sounds, because it makes it sound so much more alive and real. So, and I'm a whore, I'll like turn that mixer all the way up, so it's
everything sounds more epic when there's a reverb on it.
But there is a nuance that I will have to
we could put reverb on the podcast. It would sound like we would sound like gods talking from atop the mountain.
But that's a power that's more often abused by me, so I appreciate that you had you did it, but it's like, compared to me and how I've been doing it recently, it's very tasteful and restrained and just enough without being too much. One suggestion I do have is is there's a breakdown sort of bit where you go about 4 bars without the percussion at all. You drop it out, and I love it. But then it comes back in halfway through that 8-bar section. So you have 4 bars off, or maybe it's 8 bars, but then, you come in 4 bars afterwards.
Yeah.
I would love, and I think it would do the piece service to stay without percussion for that following 4 bars, and stay no percussion for a total of 8 bars.
What you're talking about.
Yeah. Or if it's 8 bars, stay without percussion for 16 bars. Basically double the length that it's without percussion. I reckon then it'll come back a lot stronger. And I just think it needs more time for that effect to sort of really hit you. It's like
definitely understand it.
I'd appreciate that choice to be more bold and then more impactful, so that when we come back, it's like, oh, cool, it's all come back again. That's my only piece of feedback that I'm like, absolutely give that a shot. Like, that's my highest thing. It's like, I reckon that would be really cool.
I respect that. I appreciate your input, your detailed input on.
That's it. That's really cool. I never would have thought to do something like that, to redo a song. Thank you. To redo a song with sense. I never would have thought of that, but now it's like kind of something that is in my head, and I think I might like to do someday. Nothing's off the table, you know what I mean? Like, as far as art goes, as long as the end product is something that people can enjoy. It'd be a great experiment for me to learn and get some hands-on experience with synthesis, because I'm very not familiar with it.
Well, if you can play if you can play a piano, which you obviously can, then you have like a significant advantage when it comes to synthesizing, because you're just playing a keyboard that has a whole shit ton of sound, like basically whatever the fuck you want. Like, you can make a 88 keys of different airplane sounds or whatever if you wanted to turn that into something that you can play. That's what I like about the technology, is the synths. Almost every plugin settings you can do are endless. You can pretty much go in any possible audible direction.
Oh. I seem to have lost your audio.
Oh, hold on one second. Yo, my phone died.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so let's, if you're happy, how about we skip out on my piece and wrap it up?
That's fair enough. We'll get to yours on the next one then.
Yeah. There's
I appreciate your time.
My pleasure. I imagine I'll be on most of these podcasts, at least in the beginning, so I have no doubt that plenty of my work in progress music will be heard. So, it's been an absolute pleasure, Darren. Thanks for joining. I was going to say us, but thanks for joining me one-on-one. It's been a pleasure to meet you, and I'm super keen to just have you on board as a mate in this sort of ecosphere of whatever the hell it is that we do. Yeah.
I'm all about it. So.
I don't know what we're doing, but I'm glad you're part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Trying to help out each other and help out everyone else.
Awesome. I hope the community serves you well, and all the people, and I hope you really enjoy.
So far, so good.
Yeah, I hope you enjoy the work you put in, and I hope you get some rewards from it in your own sort of creative stuff. And
appreciate it. Same to you.
Thank you. Anyways, that's it. We'll call it a day. That's been the Procreate Podcast. I think that's our 3rd one, so we're racking them up. Oh, man.
Here's to many more, right?
Oh, man. Hopefully. I'm so keen. Thank you a million. Cool. And that's it, everyone. Ta for now.